On September 21st, 2014, the People's Climate March became the largest public demonstration against climate change in human history. Marches have long held a symbolic space in the American identity. Almost 100 years ago, women took to the New York City streets, organizing a suffrage march that led to their voting rights. And in the 1960s, America found its public voice once more. First, in the reflective pool of our country's capital, and then from Selma to Montgomery, as racial discrimination in a supposedly free society could no longer be ignored. In trying to solve the problems of our century, we march again. We march against economic inequality, against social injustices and a lack of democracy, and against the one crisis that threatens all of the species on this earth: climate change. Will the People's Climate March have the same effect of those of our past? What will it take to make more and more of us wake up and try to stop the causes of climate change before it's too late? About 3 months before the march, I came across an article by Bill McKibben in Rolling Stone magazine. It was his open invitation to come to the People's Climate March. As an aspiring filmmaker and an activist all my life, I wanted to use media just like he did in order to help people wake up about climate change. I decided to travel to New York and make a documentary about a day that was going to change history.
Well, I think today in New York we have more than 300,000 people coming to the streets from all walks of life, from all parts of the world. It's really encouraging. It is clear that science is clear, and the demand from the people is also clear. We need our world leaders to act accordingly. They need to create the action plan that would help us to avoid catastrophic climate change for the planet, for everyone. Well, China and the US together, we are responsible for more than half of the world's emission. An average American is emitting way much more than an average Chinese or Indian or Brazilian. While the emerging economy, because of the absolute amount of emission coming from the emerging economy, are increasingly huge. But if we look at on a per capita emission level, the US has a lot of room for reduction. This planet cannot afford to be warmed up more than 2 degrees or even 1.5 degrees more compared to the industrialized level. If we have a ceiling of carbon emission for this planet, while population is growing, those who have been enjoying a better life based on higher emission level will have to really seriously cut down the emission in order to leave room for other people to catch up in their livelihood, in their well-being. Therefore, everyone of our generation, and also future generations, can share the well-being of our planet together.
Having spent 5 hours marching through the canyons of New York City, it's clear to me that we are part of a movement that is broad, that is diverse, that is inclusive, and that is powerful. We have hundreds of thousands of Americans who are here in New York City today that were representing millions of Americans and millions of people around the world who believe that we can create an economy that is powered by clean energy and that we don't need fossil fuels. We don't need to breathe air that makes us sick. We don't need to drink water that makes us sick. We have an opportunity to create a clean energy future, and we need to bring that future into the present. Right on the eve of the UN summit, it shows that there are people around the world who are getting impatient and intolerant of continued inaction. And we need to see strong leadership in the United States, but also around the world for a clean energy future. Every time that we transition from dirty fuels to clean energy, that transition is irreversible. We will never go back. Every time that we replace a coal plant with clean energy, every time that we reject a pipeline and replace it with clean energy, every time we stop fracking and invest in clean energy in our communities, those are transitions that will never be reversed. We are building a clean energy economy that is prosperous, that is broad, that is inclusive, and that is winning.
I study biotechnology.
Great. And can you explain what that means?
A lot of people look at biotechnology as being like a somewhat like dangerous or evil thing, and it's actually not. It's a tool. So I'm studying genetics at the moment, and it can be a tool for good or a tool for evil, depending on what you want to do. There's this whole new field called phytoremediation, which is using plants to break down pollution in the environment, and that's one of the things that I want to focus on for my career. I guess I'm here to put my voice in with everybody else's, in terms of being heard and letting the government know that there's something bigger going on, to kind of encourage them to think about or reorganize their priorities, I suppose. It's pretty important because every year we look at all the issues that the different candidates for presidency look at, and climate change is never one of the first ones. And people really need to see where they are in the world. We have this construct that we believe as the real world when really it's truly not. So if we just reorganized our priorities to see that we are organisms on this planet and that the huge world is one entire ecosystem and we are one of them, then it really changes your perspective of where you think our priorities should be.
Okay, so why are you here today?
I'm here today to become reinvigorated and excited about like the most important moment of our lives. This march is about so many different issues because it's about everyone. Climate change, corporate control, like lack of democracy. Our current economic system affects everyone, not in the same way, and that's why we're here. That's why everyone is here, and I'm just so inspired by the energy around me. I think raising awareness is a really big deal, but also this is my first time here, and I see a really big amount of wealth disparity, and Wall Street in particular. I'm super excited to flood Wall Street tomorrow because I recognize that capitalism and wealth concentration is at the root of climate chaos and at the root of so many social injustices that come after that. And that's what's really inspiring about being here, is seeing people have the power to rise up and have the power to be at the headlines. We deserve to be what people are talking about. It's more reason to keep going, because if we don't, then no one will. Like if not us, then who?
My old neighborhood in the East Village was flooded 10 feet. There's cars floating around, and when you're new to New York City, you don't really realize. You just, think like, all right, this is a hurricane. The hurricane is crazy. This is what's causing everything. But people that have lived in New York for 25 years have never seen anything like it. So I guess hearing their perspective on, what the hurricane was like is what really woke me up. You still see it today. I mean, apparently this summer was the hottest summer on record in the world. So, we definitely felt it in New York City, but I don't know. I wish more people paid attention to what, the weather's actually doing.
Look at just the weather that's been in New York recently. Like, we had a super, super crazy winter that was like polar vortex, insanely cold. The past 2 summers have been incredibly, incredibly hot and humid and disgusting. And it's been like the hottest, longest summers ever. And so it's definitely getting really, really bad out here.
Last winter was apparently a really hard winter. Who knows why or how it happened, but I think a lot of it is from the climate and how we're affecting that and the pollutants we're putting in the air and all that. So it definitely affects everyone, whether or not they recognize it or not.
When people think of New York, they think of New York City, and they don't realize how much more of New York there is out there that we benefit from. Clean water that no other place in the world even has or even knows exists. The Catskills, it's my favorite place in the world, and we benefit from so much that comes from there, whether it's fresh water, clean air, environment in general. Everything that everybody lacks in New York City. And that's what's great about New York and the Catskill region, and why we should not be fracking, why we should not be drilling into the grounds that we live from. Everything that we benefit from, why should we go and ruin something like that? It's not right.
I'm from a very urban place. I'm from LA metro area. And things don't change there because it's very managed. We're in this huge drought right now, but you almost couldn't tell because we're piping in water all the way across the country. But that said, I go camping a lot, and one of my favorite lakes, we used to kayak a mile out to this little island. In the drought, you can walk there right now.
So the message of the documentary is to make people wake up. So what would your message be to someone to wake up, and who would that be to?
Just because you don't live in the midst of it, it's still affecting you.
13 individuals were interviewed for this documentary. I asked all of them to share the moment in which they woke up about climate change. When we started talking, what I found was that our conversation was informed by the belief that the world's ecosystems and cultures are all connected. So although our perspectives may differ, the need to stop climate change is something we all agree upon.
We need to wake up that we're not just environmentalists, we're not just tree huggers, we're not just hippies. We are real people that are all living on this earth and all using these resources and all have the right to speak up for our livelihoods and for the respect of this earth.
The message that I have to say to people is that we are winning. We have a long way to go to fight climate change effectively. We have a long way to go to create a clean energy economy. But we're not really fighting the coal industry, the oil industry, the gas industry. It is those industries that are fighting what is inevitable. We will create an economy that is powered by clean energy, that is based on the principles of economic justice, and we want people to join us.
So if you were to give a message to someone to wake up, who would it be to, and what would you say?
Oh my gosh. Who would it be to? I guess to the world. I don't know. I would tell them maybe pause, tell them to move out of their own perspective of the world for a moment and to think about who they really are. I am a human being. I am consuming these things and I am exhuming these other things. And this is my cost in the world, and this is, I don't know, see yourself as the actual animal that you are.